Okay, so I know most of them are more curious to get answers for interview questions rather than learning subject. That's common point because everyone wants instant results. I do agree that, but at the same time, if you can put some effort in understanding the concepts, you don't need anything like interview questions. If you have everything with you, then there is no point of discussing some important questions, right? That is the first thing. It's just an advice. Okay, don't take it to the heart. It's just a personal advice from my end. And second thing, um, like don't think interview like it's a kind of question where I mean, don't treat like it's a question and answer type. Okay, it's not about interviewer questioning you and you have to answer for those questions. Don't consider that. Don't consider in that way. Okay, just let them know what you are aware of. That is what interview is all about, and you have to exchange your ideas. If he's a good interviewer, usually it's nothing but exchange of ideas. That's what I feel when it comes to interviews. It's not like okay, the person is asking something, then I have to answer those questions. I don't think so. It's just an exchange of ideas if he is a good interviewer. But there are few interviewers where they do have uh, some kind of egoistic character where they don't allow us to talk, or they may say no to whatever what we answer. So if that is the case, okay, I do agree, but those cases are very rare. So this is my first session, and let's talk about some interview questions. So I know we have people from like maybe 1 or 2 years of experience to 16 years in our group. So there are so many people, right? From 1 to 16 years or more than 16 years. I've seen few people with 16, 17 also. So I will throw questions in such a way that, of course, with answers. So I will help you with question and answers, uh, right from a beginner stage, okay, to the experience stage. So I will show you everything. So how to answer. Okay, so for the freshers, you don't need to answer like the way I'm explaining for the experienced people. Okay, you can stop somewhere. So I will let you know where to stop. And for the what can I say, from experience support from 5 to 11, I will consider them as mid-range DBS, okay, with the 5 to 10 perhaps. So they can stop at some point, and for the experience they have to continue. So I'm just letting you know the kind of expectations what we keep when we are interviewing a candidate. Okay, so any questions? So these are my 3 points. So first thing, don't just focus on interviews, focus on learning the topics, learning the subject. So you don't need this. That is first thing. Second thing, if you are appearing for interviews, it's just an exchange of ideas. Just feel like an exchange of ideas. Don't take everything that up so personally. Okay, so it's just whatever you know, just present to them. Third thing, as I said, we have different people in our group, so I will pass on the answers accordingly. I will adjust the answers accordingly. Okay, so let's just have a friendly conversation. Imagine you went for an interview, and uh, again, one more thing, uh, this guy Mayank Shukla, so he has been posting some interview questions from long time. So I request you to watch out for his questions. Okay, so sorry, I'm muting. So you can watch out for his questions and content. So sometimes he's posting questions and interview questions and answers, not answers, mostly interview questions. And you can check his blog or maybe his post on the LinkedIn. Okay, so that is just a recommendation, one more recommendation. Okay, so last time when we are discussing, I told you we were discussing about index, rebuild, and reorganize in our group chart, right? So I came up with this answer: index, rebuild, and index, reorganize differences. Imagine this is the interview question for you. Okay, so for a beginners like from 1 to 5, so what will be our answers? So my answers would be mostly like, I will go for rebuild if the fragmentation is more than 30%. And I will go for reorganize if the fragmentation is somewhere between 10 to 30, or maybe 5 to 30, something like that. And the second difference, what a beginner can say is, uh, maybe perhaps he can talk about um, what else, what else you will say. First, I will listen the answers from you, and then I can talk on top of it. Maybe other things what you are aware of. maybe perhaps you might know about this point. That's what I am assuming. So statistics, I think after reorganization, we need statistics. But for index rebuild, it will update the statistics for all our indexes, not the column level stats. I repeat, not for the column level stats. It updates only for index level stats. So that is the second difference. And as I'm sharing my screen, Sam, so are you not able to see my screen? Hello? Can anyone just let me know?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, fine. So maybe problem with him. Yeah. So what else? Perhaps I'm not able to think from a beginner level. Let me think. What else we can answer for the difference between rebuild and reorganize? Coming to log space, maybe he will say reorganize will consume less space compared to rebuild of indexes. So that's what a beginner level say. A beginner level DBS might can answer in their interviews. If they want to impress the interviewers with some extra answers, they can pass on these extra answers. What is that extra answers that they can pass on? Okay, so that extra answer to impress the interviewers, especially for a experience from 1 to 5. So if they can talk something about logs acquired, then that interviewer will definitely pick you up for sure, I can say, because most of the experienced people also they lack in this concept, logs acquired. So I've seen in many interviews, this is second question. As I told you, I can throw some n number of questions on this topic. Okay, so I will show you what are those questions. So in interview, I can ask you, not I mean, the interview can ask you, if I am doing online index rebuild, will it cause any blocking? That is my question. I repeat. So if I am doing any online index rebuild, will it cause any blocking?
No.
So generally the answer will be no. That's the common interpretation or the common conception, misconception what people have. Okay, when I go with index rebuild, I have an option like offline index rebuild and online index rebuild. And I've seen in few interviews where the people said, when I asked about what is offline index rebuild, they said we have to take the database to offline and then we have to perform an index rebuild. Just look at the answer. Like, can you do anything by keeping the database in offline? So I heard even those kind of answers. So I'm just letting you know, don't go with names. So offline index rebuild is very different from online index rebuild. So the first question, what I can think of is, in fact, I have asked this question many a times in the interviews. What is an online index rebuild? What are the locks that it holds? Will it cause any blocking? When I asked this question, many people, even the experience like 12, 13, 14, they said it will not cause any blocking. Okay, so that is a wrong answer. Okay, so if you wanted to impress the interviewers, you have to say, okay, you have to say, again I repeat, you have to say index online rebuild will take locks. It will take locks. So if you wanted to know exact locks, you have to remember all these things, but don't expect to remember all these things. We are humans at the end of the day. It's not possible to remember everything. Okay, so the important thing is what locks are being grabbed at the time of online index rebuild. So this is the statement that you have to present for the interview purpose. Okay, there are three stages. Okay, there are three stages for the online index rebuild. Just say there are three stages. If they ask you what are those three stages, then it's a beginning phase, some creation phase, and then some final phase. Even I don't know the exact phases. If you ask me what are those three phases, it's not possible. It's not theoretical stuff that we do in our daily life, right? So there are three stages. I'm just letting you know. So at the final stage, it will hold schema modification lock. What is schema modification lock? Just I'm letting you know. Schema modification lock means it will grab LCK underscore M. Okay, that is the lock. And once we grab that lock, no one else would be able to access anything on the table. That is the importance of schema modification lock. And it happens even with online index rebuild. Whereas in offline index rebuild, if you read this, okay, I didn't write. So an offline index rebuild will have schema modification lock for the majority of the time. So that is the problem. So again, I repeat my question. Will online index rebuild cause any blockings? That is my question. So what will be your answer? Don't say no straight away. Yes, it will cause blocking, but only at the final stage of the final phase because in online index rebuild, I believe there are 3 phases. I am not getting those 3 phases on top of my head, but definitely it will grab schema modification log at the final stage. So it might cause blocking. So it not might, it will cause blocking. Okay. So that is the important thing that you have to remember. Any questions? I'll just slowly move on. If you have any questions, let me know. No problem.
Yeah, Vamshi, I have a question actually.
Go ahead.
So this feature initially it was introduced in the enterprise edition, right?
Yes.
So, so if it is still blocking, then what is the purpose of having it in enterprise edition?
Yes, as I told you, there are 3 phases. Okay, so some beginning phase, the intermediate phase, and the final phase. When you compare that with offline index rebuild, I have to hold locks in case of offline index rebuild. I have to hold locks during the entire phase. Imagine you are building a large index. I mean, you are carrying out index rebuild operation on a larger table. Okay. In case of offline rebuild index, see this line. An offline index rebuilds of any index holds a schema modification lock. Means during that time, if I try to access anything, I will be blocked completely, right? Agreed?
Yes, I agree. Will it block user sessions as well?
Of course, it will block user sessions. That is the downside of offline index rebuild. It will block user sessions. So if you are, I think I'm getting some noise.
कितना बड़ा लंबा चौड़ा मेल डाला है, इससे अच्छा मेरे को बता ही दे.
Sorry. So in case of offline index rebuild, any user sessions will definitely get blocked because I'm holding schema modification lock. Okay. Whereas in case of online index rebuild, only at the final phase, imagine only at the final phase, then there are chances for me to get blocked. Okay, if the user session is about to grab some lock, okay, but at the same time, my index rebuild came into picture and it hold a schema modification log at that time. So that user session has to wait for this operation to get completed. Okay, that is a problem. For small indexes, you will not see this problem at all because index rebuild will happen quickly and it will release the lock. So you will not see that impact. For a bigger indexes, for larger tables, definitely you will see the importance of online index rebuild. You will see that there is an advantage, but usually will not observe up to this level. You will stop at some point and you think, okay, I'm done. That's not the case. So if you are going for interviews, it's a common interview question, will the online index rebuild causes any blocking? Yes, it will cause only at the final stage because it tries to grab schema modification lock at the final stage. That should be our answer. Okay, how about index reorganize? Will it block? Will it cause any blocking? So if you see, an index reorganize holds an intent exclusive lock. So it holds intent exclusive. You need not remember all these locks. Just say no. Okay, just say no because it's very rare for index reorganize to cause blocking, but still it will cause blocking, but it's in rare scenarios. So even for online, offline, index reorganize, everything will cause blocking, but it depends upon your situation. It depends upon your situation and what kind of activities that you are going to perform from database end. It depends because I've seen index reorganize causing blocking. Of course, obviously offline index rebuild will definitely cause blocking. I've seen n number of times, and even with online index rebuild at the final stage, you will get some blocking. So these are the stuff. So if someone talks about locks with respect to index rebuild and index reorganize, so people would consider them on a brighter side. So they will give him some priority over others, especially with locks, because locks plays a majority role and you have to understand the differences, how the locks impact the rebuild operations. So that is the important factor. And this is one more interview question. I have asked this interview question so many times, but it's very complicated for beginners to understand. For the experienced people, usually I will throw this question. So I'll talk about this little later. And the second question, what people usually they will ask is, can we stop or kill the index rebuild? What happens if you stop or kill the index rebuild? And the same question for index reorganize. So what will be your answer? Like, if I stop, I'm running index reorganize job or rebuild job, and I've seen few blockings. So I came and I stopped the job, especially re-indexing job. So what will happen? So all the work, what it has done, will it has to carry out from the beginning, or will it do from where it got suspended? This is like for 5 to 10 years, usually I will ask this question. Not me, I'm just saying me, but it's just an interview question. I repeat. So you are doing the index maintenance operation, okay, and it is causing blocking, and your people are complaining, application team is complaining that they are getting blocking. So you went there and you check the blocking. So you realize that index reorganize is causing blocking. So you are going to stop that job. Imagine you stop that job. So my question is, will it start from the scratch? Means because imagine I have 50 tables. Okay, index reorganize has completed 25 tables. 25 tables. Okay. After 25 tables, I stopped my index reorganize job. Will it start from 1 or will it start from 26? Now you can talk.
It will start from 26.
Yeah. So be cautious with your answers. Index reorganize, it can be interrupted. There is no problem because it starts from where it left. But that is not the case with index rebuild. Okay. Be very cautious. Index rebuild is an atomic operation. So there is no option for us to start it. Of course, in the latest versions, we do have. So I think I mentioned that point. I think from 2017, we have something called as a resumable online index feature. That is a different story. I'm not talking about new versions and new features improvements. I'm just talking about the general assumptions with rebuild and reorganize. So index reorganize, we can stop and we can start it. So that is the best thing. Whereas index rebuild, so as you can read from here, it cannot be interrupted. So if you interrupt it, it has to roll back everything. That means do all or nothing. Atomic operation, acid properties. When you talk about acid properties, the first property is atomic. So once I call it as atomic, atomic means it has to carry out everything or it has to roll back everything. So do all or nothing. Atomic is nothing but do all or nothing. So until 2017, before 2017, so if I stop my index rebuild job, then it has to roll back everything. So that's the reason we have to be wise when choosing with index rebuild operation. Okay. So that is the one more thing that usually people will ask in the interviews. Let me close up this. Okay, I'm getting some nonsense. So I'll just close up this. Where are we? Yeah. And again, a common interview question. This is for beginners as well as for up to 10 years, I can say, for up to 10 years. So is it possible to track the progress of rebuild activity? Just think, is it possible to track the progress of rebuild?
Yes, we can.
Sir.
Okay, so how will you calculate the index rebuild progress activity progression?
Set profiler on by
Set profile on. What is that profile on? I want the right
profiler.
answers. Okay, you will launch the profiler.
Set statistics profile on.
Okay, set statistics profile on. Okay, and then you will inspect the performance, right?
Not performance, how much percentage complete. You can see.
Did I mention index rebuild in that? Let me check that part.
Yeah, I have tested. It's working fine for me.
Yeah, usually you will not set an option, right? I mean, it is done with from the job, right? If you're doing it manually, yes, I do agree. You got my point, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
So if you run it via job, you will never using maintenance plan or Ola Halagran, whatever it is. So you will never write set statistics profile on inside your operation. If you are doing it manually, then yes, I can say rebuild operation, I can track the progress of index rebuild. But if you are doing it via job, I don't think it is possible, right? So in
Yes,
interviews, if you are appearing for interviews, if someone asks you, can you track the progress of index rebuild? There is no direct mechanism. Okay, it's not possible. Okay, what you said is appreciable. So you can say like this to impress the interviewer. You can say like this. Okay, as we are doing the index rebuild job via the Ola Halagran scripts, so it's not possible directly. But if I am doing it manually, for example, if I am doing it manually for some reason, then I can track it. I know that we can make use of set statistics profile on. So you have to run this statement. Where is that set statistics? Set statistics. Let me see. Yeah, I should have highlighted this. Sorry. So you have to just run set statistics profile on just a single statement. Okay, just run this statement, and under this statement, you just fire your index rebuild, alter index name on table name rebuild. Then you will be able to see the activity, progress of the activity using this DMV, some query. So you have to run this query to find out the activity. Okay, so this is not possible. This is not possible in real time. So if someone asks you, can you able to progress the index rebuild? You have to say no, it's not possible, and there are indirect mechanisms for that to track. Okay, so we'll talk about indirect first later, but first of all, if someone asks you what is the how can you track the progress of index rebuild? No, it is not possible. Whereas index reorganize, yes, it is possible. So I am saying yes. So from where can I get that information? Index reorganize. Progression of index reorganize. The answer is there. So anyone would like to answer it?
sys.dm underscore execute requests.
Very important DMV. Okay, I'm highlighting you. Of all the DMVs, there are around 1000 DMVs in SQL Server. It's not possible to remember each and every DMV, but one DMV that every DBA has to remember is sysdm exec request. I repeat, this is the most important DMV that every DBA has to remember. Okay, I cannot stress the importance of it. So sysdm exec request will help you to track the index reorganize percentage complete. I repeat again, don't think that this is applicable for user queries. Okay, so because I've seen so many cases where people would suggest just run sysdm exec request, you will find to know percent complete. You have to understand very important thing, guys. Let me show you the importance of this. If you're going for interviews, don't give blunt answers, especially with this exec request. So I will let you know what are the things that can be tracked. I mean to say percent complete. Okay, only few things can be identified. I mean, we can go ahead with percent complete only for these operations, not for other operations. Okay, very, very, very important. Okay, what are those operations? If you're running backup, yes, you can track the percent complete. Okay, if you're running reorganize, yes, you can. If you're running checkdb, yes, you can, because checkdb internally has three things that it has to carry out. Check table, what is that? Check alloc, check catalog. So there are three things that has to be done by checkdb. So all those things can be tracked with percent complete column inside my dm exec request. Shrink file, yes, you can. Restoring, yes, you can. Rollback, of course, it is not working as expected, but sometimes it will, sometimes it not. So I don't consider rollback as the best option. The best option is backup, restore, index reorganize, checkdb, and shrink file. Only these things are the ones that can be tracked from exec request. TD encryption, it will happen, usually it will happen quickly, but in case if it is not progressing, you can check from here. Don't say, okay, imagine I am the interviewer and I'm asking you, I'm running an insert statement. Can you let me know how much time will it take? Don't give this answer. Okay, I have a DMV exec request and inside that I will check percent complete. For God's sake, don't say that answer. Okay, it's not possible. Insert, update, delete, select, all these things are DML operations, and it is not possible to track the percent completion of those activities with the help of exec request. It's not possible. It depends completely on the resources what SQL Server is getting. Okay, don't ever say for insert, okay, it will take this much time. Update, delete, no. Even for select also, it's not possible. Okay, only things that can be tracked from exec request is backup, restore, checkdb, index reorganize, shrink file, shrink operation, and few cases TDE encryption. Okay, only this 6 or 7 things, not anything apart from what they have listed over there. Please, okay, don't say insert, update, delete as your answers. If you say that thing, definitely I will consider him as not a good candidate for the position. Okay, so be very cautious. This is one more thing about rebuild, reorganize. See how the questions are interlinked. So from where to where we are going slowly. So that's what I said. So from one point, from this tab itself, we can create so many questions. So the next important question that usually people might ask you in interviews, statistics. It's a very important thing. So usually so first question, how many types of statistics are there? So this is a common interview question. So there are 2 types of statistics, one on indexes, one on columns. Okay, so there are two types of stats: index stats, column stats. Okay, even if you are not worked in it, it's fine. At least say these answers. So there are two type of statistics: index statistics, column statistics. So next question: will index rebuild update the statistics? Yes, it will update, but which statistics are those? Is it column statistics or index statistics? So your answer should be only index statistics. Again, I repeat, it's only index statistics, not column statistics. Okay, index rebuild will never touch any column level statistics. It will only operate on index statistics, not on column statistics. Whereas reorganize will not touch statistics at all. You have to update your statistics manually after an index reorganize operation. So this is one more common interview question. Okay, so any questions up to now? Is it clear? If you don't talk, I will not be able to understand. Yeah. Okay, so one more interview question. This is for a higher level, like maybe more than 10. So, or maybe up to 8 to somewhere from 8 to 15. So usually people might ask you this question. Okay, so even I have asked this question. Imagine, so for the freshers or for the junior mid-level DBS, you can ignore this question. You can ignore this answer, but if you are interested, you can listen. I am not stopping you. So this is for experienced people. Usually what happens in full recovery model, everything would get logged, right? So index rebuild operation is it's very costly. It will log so many records into that log file. Okay, imagine you placed your database into any high availability technology like log shipping or replication or always on high availability. So if you keep your database into always on, so the amount of log it gets generated is very high, and that same log has to traverse across all the secondary replicas, right? So imagine you have two replicas in one region, primary data center, and two more in another data center. Just imagine if that data center is far, definitely you will operate in asynchronous mode. But even though you might be working in asynchronous mode, the amount of log it gets generated and it has to traverse is very big. So that's the reason for few things you have to take complete downtime. Imagine you are working with some terabytes of table. Okay, some 10 terabytes or 15 terabytes, and you have to perform index rebuild on it. So don't go bluntly with index rebuild operation on those bigger tables, more than 5 terabytes, I can say, because if that database is involved in always on, the log records has to traverse across all the replicas. It will take hell lot of time. It will definitely there will be plenty of lag from the primary to your secondaries. Whether it is same data center or another data center doesn't matter. Okay, so that is one more thing that you have to remember. I'm just giving you a suggestion. Coming back to our interview questions, imagine this is just a standalone database and that is of 4 terabytes or 5 terabytes. Okay, again, I'm saying this is for interview, for the experienced people, not for the freshers or mid-level DBS. Okay, so imagine I am operating in simple all bulk. I will ask you a question like, what will be your strategy to implement index rebuild for a bigger database or for a bigger table inside one 5 terabytes table? Okay, so usually what people say is they will just go as they will say, okay, I will switch that recovery model to simple or bulk logged. Then only few changes would get logged. I mean to say those operations will be minimally logged. So it will run faster. So the log file growth will be minimal. Yes, I do agree up to this, but there is one important point that you have to remember. So once you are done with changing the recovery model from simple to bulk log, okay, so the next, once you change that back to full after the index rebuild operation, this is the question what I used to ask. Of course, I got this question from few people, so that's why I'm highlighting this. Very, very important. Okay, I'm repeating the question. Imagine it's a standalone database and you are performing rebuild operation for a 4 terabyte table. Okay, so you change it from full to simple or bulk log, doesn't matter. So you change it to the other recovery models and the operation is completed successfully. And then you wanted to change it back, the recovery model back to full. You changed it, but what happens, the next log backup means once you have changed the recovery model from simple or bulk log to full recovery model, this operation, this log backup will be so big, so big. So in few interview questions, what I asked is, have you ever seen log backup growth all of a sudden, and what are the reasons? That is my question. Again, I repeat, have you ever seen log backup growth all of a sudden so drastically? And what will be your answer? So that was my question. I mean, I used to ask this question. So many of them were not able to answer this, and many of them, they don't even know. The concept is, once you are done with rebuild activity and once you change it from from simple or bulk log to full, the next log backup in our full recovery model will be so big. So this is a point that you have to remember. Again, I repeat, this is not for freshers or mid-level DBS. It's for seniors. Okay, next, which is the faster operation, rebuild or reorganize? So it's a very tricky question. If someone asks you what is the operation that runs faster, it's kind of tricky question, because read these points carefully, you will get the answer. For reorganize, what it does, actually I didn't talk about how reorganize work. It's just the shuffling of pages. How many of you, I don't know, are familiar with bubble sort algorithm? So exactly, bubble sort algorithm is nothing but you will take one page, sort it out, and you'll get the new page, and you'll shift this page. So it will just move from one page to another page. So that is our bubble sort algorithm in our C programming language. So the same algorithm is applicable for index reorganize. When it is doing, it will take some empty page, it will move the content to that page, and it will perform the order. It will keep that pages in right order, and then it will go back to the new page. So this operation continuously will occur. So which operation will run faster? So read this line. If you perform reorganize for a very highly fragmented table, imagine it is 50% fragmented. Okay, and you have not gone with the rebuild, because that database is involved in always on, and as I told you, always on will generate huge amount of log. So you don't want that log to be traversed across all the replicas. For that purpose, you opted for reorganize. If that is the case, reorganize will run for a longer time. In such case, usually it will run bit faster, but still, if the fragmentation is more, the more the fragmentation, the lesser the speed of reorganize. That should be your statement. So which is faster? If someone asks you which is faster, your statement or your answer should be, the more the fragmentation, the lesser the speed of index reorg. When it comes to rebuild, it doesn't consider the fragmentation. Okay, it doesn't consider the fragmentation. Why it will not consider the fragmentation? Because as you can see, the length of the time the rebuild takes related to size of the index. It depends upon the size of the index, not the amount of fragmentation. Why it is not considering fragmentation? Because you are dropping it and you are creating it. So index rebuild will always build a new index. So it's just like a house construction. So you already have a house and you are not interested in that house. You wanted to renovate it with new features. So what you will do, you will just demolish the entire house and you will create a new house, right? So just like that, our rebuild works in a similar fashion. So it will demolish all the older index, it will create a new index, and it will copy the contents from old index to the new index. So it will not consider fragmentation. So the speed, when it comes to speed, someone asks you, the length of the time rebuild takes is related to size of the index. So here we have to talk about size of the index, whereas here we need to talk about fragmentation percentage. That is the difference. So I hope you got the important point. So if someone asks you, which is a better option, rebuild or reorganize, of course, you can pass on all the answers what you are aware. But if you have to be right on track or right on the issue, right on the money, so your answer should be fragmentation. Fragmentation would come into picture in case of reorganize. The more the fragmentation, the more time it would take for reorganize to complete that. And when it comes to rebuild, it doesn't consider fragmentation because we are dropping and creating a new index. So if the size of the index is too large, then rebuild operation will take more time. That should be our answer. Okay. Questions before I go ahead with another topic or different question on rebuild reorganize?
Hey, Vamshi, Balaji here. So
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So coming to large tables, let's say I have a table having around 800 GB data. So for that, if I need any index maintenance, how to proceed?
You have 800 GB table size, right?
Yes.
So obviously you will check for 1 second, guys, just a second. I got a few things. Just hold on. I will go through. Yeah. So I got something from office. Yeah, I just told her. Okay, so coming to your question, 800 GB. So what will be the best strategy, right? So as I told you, you have listened, you just concentrated on all my answers, right? So if I wanted to answer this question, what will be my answer? Just I will let you know. So my answer would be, first of all, I will ask this question: is the database part of any high availability technology? It can be log shipping, replication, mirroring, always on, whatever it is. So that would be my first question. So remember, guys, I forgot to inform you one thing. Interviewer, when you're going for appearing for interviews, it doesn't mean you should not ask any questions. You should ask questions. Okay, that should be one more thing that you have to remember. You should ask questions, because without getting the right information, I cannot give you the right answer. Right? So for his question, so some of our friends is asking like, what will be my approach for 800 GB table rebuild or index rebuild? So my first question for him will be, is that table or is that database is part of any high availability technology? So you have to answer me that. So definitely he will answer yes or no. Balaji, right? You asked me this question. So what will be your answer for this?
No, it's not part of any
High
high
availability technology.
availability.
Okay.
It's just standalone database.
Okay, so I got my answer, right? See the conversation. So think Balaji is the interviewer, I am the candidate. So Balaji asked me like, what will be your approach for 800 GB table size, sorry, index rebuild for 800 GB index or table. So for my first question, as you just noticed, is that database is part of any high availability technology? He said no. So my next question, so he said it's a standalone database. So my next question would be, so I will check. So I can ask this question, or I can answer like this. So I will check the fragmentation. So if my fragmentation, definitely it's the same point. So if it is somewhere around 10 to 30, I will go with reorganize, or else I will go with rebuild, because I will explain him the advantages. If I go with reorganize, the amount of blocking will be very less, because I will not get blocked, because the locks held for reorganize is completely different from rebuild. And the one more advantage with going with reorganize is I can stop it. Because imagine I'm getting blocking. Okay, someone is shouting, team is shouting, they are getting blocked. And straight away I can stop my operation and I will let it run the next day, on the next day. So there will not be any problem whatsoever. So I will run it for maybe for few days, let it run. So the fragmentation would slowly come down. No problem. It might be 60% also. Imagine it's 60% fragmented. Okay, usually people definitely will go with rebuild. But imagine your application is 24/7 and you are not getting any downtime. Very critical application, and even small amount of blocking will cause impact. If that is the case, what will be our approach? Just think like that. If that is the case, what I have to do, I cannot go with rebuild, even though he said it is a standalone, because if I go with rebuild, as I told you, even if I go with online index rebuild, offline index rebuild, definitely you are gone, because it will try to hold schema modification lock, so it will cause blocking. So as I said, the application is very important. Imagine it's a 24/7 application. If that is the case, I cannot go with offline index rebuild. The only option left out for me is go with either online index rebuild or index reorganize. So in these two options, what would be the best option? If you ask me personally, I will tend to go with online index rebuild, provided if I can get some downtime, because as I told you, there are 3 phases. So at the last phase, if I'm not getting interfered by by the application, so I will be safeguarded. My application will my index rebuild will get completed. But if it's a kind of application where it's not allowing me to take that minimal downtime, if that is the case, my answer will be, I will start with reorganize. I know the percentage is very high, but I can stop it. If I'm getting blocked, straight away I'll stop it and I'll let it run for maybe 7 days or 8 days or 10 days. So it might take 10 days for that to get free of fragmentation. agreed, it might take 10 days, but the advantage is I am not getting blocked. So that will be my answer. Any questions?
Perfect. No, thank you.
Yeah, so you
So,
have to explain like this. So you have to explain about offline, online, reorg, and the positives and downsides both together. So if you can explain everything what you are aware of, your interview is done.
Yeah. So I think there is one of our architect, he suggested to first partition the table, then create
See, I will let
indexes
you
and
know,
for yeah.
partitioning is not a simple thing. Okay.
Mm,
Partitioning
mm, mm.
requires so many things. It has to have certain things. So if you ask me about partitioning, I can tell a complete story on it. Okay. So you cannot create partitioning on the fly. Agreed. So imagine it's
Yes.
a 24/7 application. Can you do partitioning on the fly? You have to raise
No.
you have to first implement it on test environment. It has to get succeeded on the lower environments. Then you have to raise a change. You have to do it on production. Do you think this will happen fastly?
No. No, on the fly we cannot do it. So what they have
Yep.
suggested going forward in if you want to rebuild it, better go with the partition. That's what the final suggestion came from Microsoft support.
Oh, Microsoft support it. So that is the case. See this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fine. So it's up to them. But my answer would be what I told you. So I will go with index reorganize and I will stop it at regular intervals. So it might
Yes,
take
I got
some
it.
time. Yeah. But that is the best approach. On the fly, I can do it, right? I can
Mm,
stop
yes,
it. But if it is causing blocking, straight away I can stop it.
Yeah, fine. Thank you.
No problem. So any other questions, like Balaji have thrown me a question. So you can ask your question. So I can answer that as well.
The same index ID 800 GB database is part of Always On.
Okay. This is tricky.
Super.
Okay. When the database is part of Always On, this is tricky. But if I show you one thing, you will be surprised to see this, because what I'm answering, it's not from my head straight away. I just followed so many blocks, and with that knowledge, I am talking about this. Okay, it's not just I'm saying answers you have to follow. I'll show you the proof as well. Just a second. Paul Randall. Paul Randall, I assume everyone is aware of Paul Randall, right? High availability, index reorganize, sorry, index reorg versus index rebuild. Just type this. So you will get the decision, or you will get the suggestion from the best in the industry. Not this one. I've just read somewhere and he has given the right answer. So I'll show you. The same logic, even for always on database. I don't know who asked this question. So my approach is, if you should always say about the criticality of the application. Get that question, throw that question to the interviewer first. Is your application a 24/7 application? Throw that question. That is very important question, because if you can get downtime, then it's always I will take downtime, and not downtime in the sense, okay, I can go with online index rebuild. So that is my best option. And if it is standard edition, obviously I have to go with offline index rebuild. So during that offline index rebuild, so there are chances for me to get blocked. So I will, if I get downtime, then during that time I will perform that operation. So that will be my answer.
Adding to that, Vamshi, this is Ramya. I just put it out. If they ask us how much downtime is required,
How much
is there
downtime
any
is required? That's a very good question. Let's talk about that. 1 second. I'm reading this and reading your questions both together. Okay, something different. Some project itself. Okay, so coming back to your question, Ramya. So how much time will it take? That's a very good question. So what will be your answer? Just I'm asking you. Do you know how much time will it take prior? Imagine you have carried out in the,
no
okay.
idea. I know any formula is there or something. I'm just checking with you.
Okay, so the best answer, if you wanted to give the best answer, I bet many in the industry will definitely go ahead with Ola Halagran, right? Nobody will make use of maintenance plans for this index rebuild or stats, whatever it is, because it contains the great
Right.
logic, right? So you should say answer like this. Even though you are not able to answer the questions, try to put it in a best way. Okay, so you ask me this question. So my answer would be, definitely in your environment or even across the different environments, the best answer would be to go with Ola Halagren, right? So I will check how much time it took prior by checking the logs of my tables. So there is one important table if you use Ola Halagren. So that table name is called as command log. So there is a table. I don't know how many of you are aware, but if you use, okay, let me show you. It will create one table. That one table is command log. Okay, command log. So this table would lock the time also. Okay, so let me show you command log. Control F, command log. I think one at the same command log. Yeah. So as you can see, this is the table command log. So it will log the output of that operation to a table. So by checking the table, and I can run, I can check how much time it took for the operation to get completed. So I'll get some idea. So in the past, definitely they would have run that in the past. So if they have ran it, I mean, if it got executed in the past, I will check the output from the command log table. Imagine he might twist you again, saying that, okay, it has not run anywhere in the past, so it is a new run. So how will you calculate? If that is your next question, you have to get prepared for next question also. If that is the case, okay, if that is going to be the first time, then I don't have any choice, right? Because I cannot calculate the exact times what it takes. So in that case, I will say to safeguard myself, I will say, okay, I will go with the reorganize because I have this option. I will say, I will talk about this advantage. And if there is downtime, again, the same answers. I will repeat the same answers what we discussed prior. So in interviews, if someone asks you how much time it took for the rebuild or reorganize or statistics update, whatever it is, backup, restore, everything. So you can get that information from command log table. Keep an eye on this table because in this table, everything will get logged. So definitely you have to talk about this table. Okay, so if you talk about this table, that means you are real time. I mean, of course, there are many people who put with experience and they will come to industry. I'm not against them, but what I'm saying is, if I can throw this question and if that guy is able to answer, it means that he's definitely a real time guy, because usually any trainers will not discuss about command log table, because usually for the people who worked on in the real time, they can only able to answer it. Of course, there are few people who don't even know despite of working in real time. That's a different story. But if command log is a table that gets logged for everything. Okay, so that is my answer.
Thank you, Vamshi.
I think you can throw questions. So if you have any questions, I will just try to give the best answers rather than me talking. I think one more thing what we discussed right now. This is very simple question, but the answers looks very funny to me. Okay, so I'm just correcting you guys. I'm not saying that I'm an expert. You are not. That's not my intention. So I'm just correcting. If you appear for interviews, if someone is asking you right now, there is a performance issue. It's a very common interview question. Right now, you are observing a performance issue. Okay, so what will be your series of steps? Right now, there is a performance issue. So what will you do? Let's talk on that question. You can just pass on your answers and then you will see. I will let you know the right answers. Go ahead. It's okay. We are just discussing. Okay, there's nothing wrong.
Check on current sessions. Is there any blocking, deadlocks, fragmentations, reboot was done,
Exactly. I
reorganization
like
done?
these answers. Come on. So I would like to correct these answers. Okay, I'm not. It's okay, fine. These are the regular answers what we hear from the people. I just wanted to correct these answers. That is my intention, not to hurt you again. Okay.
Okay, sure. Any
Manish
jobs
here.
were running
Yeah, Manish.
on
Manish,
it?
go ahead.
Yeah.
Any? Okay.
Just a second, Ramya. Go ahead, Manish.
Yeah, so if anything is suspended mode, then we can check why it is suspended and what are the resource this query is waiting for. So we can check the wait states. We can
Mm,
then we
mm.
can traverse to the issue, because we find that it is suspended. Then it is why it is suspended, and why it is waiting for.
What it is waiting
Like
for? Yeah.
yeah. So like IO, like CPU,
Mm.
or any memory
Spot on.
issue.
Spot on. I agree with your answer. So what Manish is suggesting is, so he will check for the wait stats. So if it is CPU bound, he will check from that angle. If it is IO bound, so he will check from that side. Usually it will be either CPU bound or IO bound, because memory will not be a crunch. Usually, I'm saying usually, but there are chances where memory comes into picture. That's a different story. Let's talk about in a generic manner. Then we can talk about the complications. So as Ramya was saying, so what she said her first answer would be to check the blockings. She said to check the fragmentation, check the deadlocks, and something else she told. So I agreed with
Jobs, any jobs are
jobs, any
running
long
on
running jobs, something like that,
yeah.
right? So I agree with most of the answers, but just think logically. So I will ask a question here. So if Ramya is my candidate, my next question to Ramya will be, what is the difference between blocking and deadlocks? My next question, my next immediate question. What is the difference between blocking and deadlocks? You can answer it, Ramya. Go ahead.
Okay. When blocking is caused by two transactions when they are looking for the same resource,
Okay.
and the deadlock when what you can say.
It's okay, fine. So I will just rephrase this. So you will definitely come up with some definition of blocking and deadlocks, right?
Right.
So blocking is something, something, and deadlock is something, something. But just think from a technical standpoint. So in case of blocking, DBA has to intervene, right? He has to come into picture. He has to identify what is getting blocked and what is causing blocking. And then he has to pass that information to the application team. Based on their call, you will take some action, either kill it or let it run. Agreed?
Right.
Whereas in case of deadlock, will the DBA comes into picture?
No, the application team.
Yeah,
No, we'll
deadlock.
just
Imagine. So if I say performance issue right now, deadlocks will happen. It might happen at any point of time. It's just like a guy who is suffering from heart attack, cardiac attack. Okay. So he's a patient. So do you know when he will get heart attack again? Is it possible? No, right? So how will you say that, okay, this guy will get heart attack again at this time? It's absolutely impossible for anyone to figure out that. So in that case, what will you do? In such case, you have to monitor him throughout the day, right? You have to monitor him throughout the day. And in case if he gets heart attack, you will take the next action, right? In the similar fashion, SQL Server will never know when it gets deadlocked. I mean, when the deadlock happens inside the SQL Server. Okay. SQL Server doesn't know, because why I'm saying this, blocking, in case of blocking, a human has to intervene. That human is that he can be developer or DBA, whomever it is. But in case of deadlock, there is no one to intervene. SQL Server itself has to kill one transaction, right? Agreed or not? So deadlock,
right.
one transaction would get rolled back, which is least expensive to roll back. So which transaction would get rolled back? For that question, the answer would be the log generation. So the speed that gets generated with less log would get killed automatically. Who is killing that? Is it DBA? No, it's not DBA that is killing the transaction over there. It is the SQL Server that is killing one of the transaction. So how do SQL Server would know that guy? I mean, how it comes to know that the deadlock happened? It has to action on it immediately. Just like my example, right? Cardiac patient, he is there sitting over there. How do I know? It's not possible. So SQL Server has to monitor deadlocks all the time. So just for your information, guys, there is one thread dedicated for deadlocks that runs for every 5 seconds. I repeat, deadlock scheduler is there inside SQL Server. That is a thread that runs for every 5 seconds. For every 5 seconds, it checks. And if there are no deadlocks, it sits ideally. Just like your cardiac patient, he's sitting right next to you, and you are the caretaker of him. So what will you do? You will just monitor him for every 5 seconds. And if he's living comfortably, he will not take any action. If he gets some problem, then immediately you will take action. In the similar fashion, SQL Server deadlock thread scheduler will run for every 5 seconds. It monitors that for every 5 seconds. In case of deadlocks, it will kill, not DBA. I repeat it again. It will kill, not DBA. So one transaction would get rolled back automatically. So which transaction would get rolled back automatically? The speed that gets less generated log. I mean, the speed that is easy to get rolled back. So how? So in that case, I will choose the speed that has what is that log generation. I will check the log generation, not me, SQL Server. Log generation, it will check the log generation activity. So whomever records less log records, so the SQL Server would choose that transaction and it would kill that automatically. So don't say deadlock as your problem. Deadlock, eventually SQL Server is killing it. You are not killing it, right? So just take that answer away from your list. So because this is
Sure.
a common answer I have seen from many people, deadlocks is a problem. Okay, but deadlock, what happens is that if you are getting frequent deadlocks, it gets killed automatically. You are not coming into picture. So you have to action it later. So you will go through our error logs or extend events or whatever it is. So you examine those deadlocks and then you will take action accordingly by talking to the developers, or you will just pass that information to the developers and you will wipe out your hands saying that you have to take care of your deadlocks. That's a different story. So when I ask about performance issue that is happening right now, so as Manish said, I will agree with that answer because yes, blocking is a problem. Even I agree with your answers. Blocking is a problem. Definitely, I will check for the blockings. Okay. And you said a long running transaction. Definitely, because if it is long running, you have to observe why it is long running all of a sudden. That I agree with that answer, but I don't agree with deadlocks. So I just wanted to correct. And okay, so I wanted to find out what is that query that is running for longer duration. So how will you find out that query? This is my next question. You can answer it. I mean, everyone is allowed to talk here. I'm just correcting you guys, so there is nothing wrong.
Actually, yes.
SP underscore who
Yes.
is active on that
Correct.
particular DB, we can get the information.
Okay,
behind.
SP who is active is one answer. Okay, what else? What next? I'm the interviewer. I'm asking you this question.
Sys processes
So
active
I,
sessions on that particular DB, where DB ID equal to that
okay,
number.
again, I'm repeating my question. Watch my question. Observe that my question carefully. I am asking you, how will you find out the query that are happening right now that is causing the performance issue? So you said sys.sys process. Is sys.sys process is having any column that identifies the queries?
No, it's DMV called
Yeah, it's
session
just to
text
identify the number of sessions that are happening on the DB. It will not give you that query. So again, I am asking you this question. How will you identify the query for that session?
Exit request.
Use SP who is active.
Yeah, I am agreeing with SP who is active. Imagine a few companies will not allow you to run even SP who is active because I've seen few companies because of their sensitivity issues, they might not even allow you to run SP who is active. Okay, if
And
that is
in
the
that
case, yeah.
case, I use activity monitor.
Okay, activity
Sys.dm execute request.
EXEC request, again, the same question. Okay, we are in front of EXEC request. I think in the past I've seen. So is there any column which says text of the text here? Just see
No,
this.
actually, we need to combine the two DMV
SQL
here.
plan, we can,
Okay,
SQL
plan
handle, we can.
SQL handle. That's right answer. But to which DMV should I pass that SQL handle?
SQL text.
Text, SQL text.
Exactly. So sysdm exec SQL text. You have to pass SQL handle to your SQL sysdm exec SQL text. Then you will get the queries right now that are happening. But why I ask this question, because I have seen people saying DBCC input buffer. Okay, DBCC input buffer will take only one speed. Imagine I'm having some 10 or 15 queries running at the same time that is causing some performance issue for me. Do you pass that the same query DBCC input buffer 15, 20, sorry, not 15, 75, 80, 85, something like that? No, it's not possible, right? So your answers in interview should be SP who is active. It's 100% right. That is the best tool that you can make use of to figure out what is happening right now on the system. If the interviewer says I need alternative answers, or if he says that SP who is active is not allowed to run on their systems, then you have to make use of the DMVs from the SQL server. If that is the case, I have to make use of sysdm exec request and sysdm exec SQL text. Here I need to pass on the SQL handle. So that should be our answer. Don't say DBCC input buffer for God's sake. Okay, if you say DBCC input buffer, if it's okay for me. If you say DBCC input buffer, if you are just fresher, like 1 to 3 years, I will agree. But anything after 3 years, I am not satisfied with your answer. Not me. I am not talking about me. It's about everyone. So someone, if you are appearing for interviews and if you wanted to differentiate yourself from others, you have to be spot on with your answers. Few answers, not with all the answers. Few answers, especially like this, will give you a better impression. So that is where I'm talking about. Okay, don't take me wrong, guys. I'm just correcting you. Okay, so clear. Next, so the same question. So they will say performance issue is happening right now. So someone said he will check the weight stats. I'm happy. Someone said SP who is active. Okay, you identified that. So what will be your next action?
Usually I'll ask them what kind of performance issue. Is it entire application is having problem, only particular query is having problem? So if you can drill down the issue by getting the information from the developers or the end users, your way of approaching the issue, resolving the issue will be easier. If you just get to know what is the issue they are facing. If it is for single user, you can go in a different approach. If it is entire application, it will be different like that. If
Okay,
it is a
so yeah,
entire DB level or a server level, SQL server level. So from there, it is easy for us to approach how you can proceed as a
you don't.
DBA.
Okay, this is for senior. I think it's Gopi. So for senior level, yes, I do agree. You have to go with this approach, and even for senior level, it's even for senior level. Okay, so you are supposed to solve that issue on the fly. Okay, so that is the challenge what I have given you right now. Okay, so that's why that's the reason, Gopi. We'll talk about this a bit later because I wanted to address the beginners also. So for beginners, so you can say SP who is active. That is the best and easiest answer for you to identify the issues. And for even up to mid-level DBS, maybe up to 6 or maybe up to 10, you can say you can identify the weight stats. Okay, weight stats are something that can help us to drive in the right direction. So if it is something like CX packet, SOS scheduler reel, something like that, it is something related to CPU. Okay, and also the weight stats, not only weight stats, there are some status inside SQL Server that is nothing but running, runnable, suspended. Okay, if you see it is runnable, means it is waiting for CPU. Again, I repeat, if someone asks you, how will you identify if the queries are waiting for CPU? So you can straight away say using SP who is active, it will display you the wait stats, or you can use any DMVs. EXEC request will give you the information of wait stats, I believe. So wait type, everything is there. So if that is the case, you can say if any wait type is indicating like runnable, so if that is the case, so I'm waiting for CPU. I think, guys, I need to drop off because my manager needs something from me. So I will talk about this tomorrow, but I will just carry out these sessions that can help you in clearing the interviews. I hope you are okay with these sessions, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
Yes, Vamsi. Yep.
so yeah, we will continue tomorrow because she is asking something which I'm not able to understand, something related to ClickView. So I will talk to her and I will take the session tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, thank you all.
Yeah. Take
Okay,
care, guys.
thank you. Thanks,
Yeah.
Vamshi.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Vamsi.
you.